Clandestine Lemon, Episode 3. The Christmas 2021 episode. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose. It was not just shiny but self-illuminating. Yes, it glowed. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They excluded him from activities and social functions. They did their best to interfere with Rudolph ever finding a mate. They eventually harassed him into leaving his home. When his parents tried to find him, none of his tormentors offered much help. They preferred to keep his family in the dark and damn him to life on the island of misfit toys. His family was greatly distressed. Well, his mother was. His father was mainly worried that Rudolph might be gay. He constantly pressured Rudolph to cover up his nose. The young reindeer's disappearance solved a problem in his mind. Secretly, he was glad that his son might freeze to death on the ice of the North Pole. In his eyes, Rudolph was an embarrassment to the family. Those are the kinds of things that make a reindeer pretty fucking pissed off. Pretty fucking pissed off indeed. Rudolph found friends and compatriots in his exile. Still, survival was not easy. He had to do things no one should have to do to get by. There was no shower that could cleanse him of the filthy feeling those things gave him. There wasn't enough mouthwash either. It was bad enough when King Moonracer would have his dirty way with Rudolph. It was worse when the king shared Rudolph with his friends. Every time Rudolph buried his face in that pillow, the rage grew. He vowed revenge. Not just on Moonracer though. Rudolph's revenge would be much more widespread than that. All of the world would feel his wrath. Eventually, Rudolph freed himself from Moonracer's sex dungeon. The blood he spilled that day only set the stage for the terror he would inflict on his foes. He returned to Santa's village and quietly waited. There was no hero's welcome for him. Most of the reindeer his age ignored him. His worst tormentors doubled the insults. Rudolph had a girlfriend called Clarice that was also harassed by those bastards. She was driven nearly mad by the taunts. The Facebook and Instagram shit was truly despicable. Rudolph and Clarice could only take comfort in knowing that the people trying to break them weren't shit. Finally, one Christmas Eve, a weather emergency arose. Fog from 30,000 feet right down to the deck. Santa Claus was frantically trying out guidance systems for his sleigh. Unfortunately, he was not the fly-by-wire type. He needed to be able to see in front of the sleigh. Santa remembered talk about a reindeer who had a glowing nose. For years he pretended that it was not a matter for his business office. He ignored reports of the young reindeer being emotionally and physically abused. He was told that the poor bastard had been exiled but allowed to return. Perhaps the little freak was just the thing he needed to save the day. Santa had Rudolph summoned to his office in the workshop. He explained the dilemma to Rudolph. Rudolph listened, the rage building deep within. Finally Santa uttered the words Rudolph was waiting to hear. "Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?" Now in the song, this is where all the reindeer get to pretend that they accepted Rudolph despite his physical differences. That part is true to a point, but the song left a lot out. First of all, Rudolph didn't lead the sleigh that night. When Santa said those words, Rudolph actually said this. "So now you give a shit who I am, you fat fucking bastard. 4 years I put up with the bullying in school. Those fuckers shoved a carrot up my ass in the locker room one time. The teachers told me to get over it. 4 years I got passed over for jobs. The managers told me to accept my place at McDonald's. Your own sleigh team was front and center just kicking my ass every day until I fled your shithole village. Then there was my exile. I won't go into detail except to say it was not pleasant having to prostitute myself to survive. None of your people came to look for me. None of them helped my parents look for me. In fact, it is my understanding that they were happy I was gone and bummed out when I came back. While all of that was going on, your fat ass never lifted a finger to help me. Fuck you, Santa Claus. Find your own goddamn way tonight." Santa did try to navigate without Rudolph that Christmas. It was an awful mess. He missed several houses and near the end of the night he crashed the sleigh into an orphanage. The orphans nearly froze to death and a reindeer died. It was a public relations nightmare. Rudolph used the disaster to his advantage. After that, Rudolph was at the front of the sleigh every Christmas. His salary was in the high six figures and he ended up owning half of Santa's business. He eventually became so rich that he was able to exact revenge on King Moonracer. But that is a story for another day. Merry Christmas, world!